Brian Daboll should be fired. I don't know for the life of me how Brian Daboll still has a job after the terrible display of coaching that he showed in the fourth quarter against the Broncos. They were up 26-8 with 10 minutes to go in the fourth. And then he makes a boneheaded decision with 5 minutes left, up 10 points on 3rd and 5 to ask his rookie quarterback to throw the football against the best defense in the NFL. And of course, it ends up resulting in a disaster. It gets intercepted. And that play right there is what won the game for the Denver Broncos. Now, you can blame the defensive coordinator, the field goal kicker for missing 2 PATs, but all of this falls on Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll was the one who hired that defensive coordinator that allowed the Broncos to drop 33 points on them in the fourth quarter. Brian Daboll was the one who decided to stick with that field goal kicker despite him missing 2 PATs and also a missed PAT in the game before this one. Every loss, every win, all falls on the head coach. When you win, the head coach gets all the praise. But when you lose, the head coach gets all the criticism. And Brian Daboll is dead weight for the New York Giants right now. He shouldn't be allowed to have his job saved by the greatness of Jaxson Dart, because it's pretty easy to tell that Jaxson Dart is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I'm going to come out and flat out say it. I was wrong about Jaxson Dart. Now, I never thought that Jaxson Dart was going to be a scrub, but I never thought that Jaxson Dart would be able to instill the hope that he has injected into this Giants organization like the way he has so far. And Brian Daboll is a large part of the success that Jaxson Dart has had. He's a brilliant offensive coordinator, but he's just a horrible head coach. And in spite of how good Jaxson Dart will become, he's not going to win a lot of games for the New York Giants if Brian Daboll has the terrible situational football that we just saw against the Denver Broncos in the fourth quarter. And remember last year, when Daniel Jones got scapegoated for the struggles that the Giants offense was having, Malik Neighbors came out and said that it's not the quarterback. Essentially, he indirectly was saying that you need to blame the coaching staff. And the coaching staff is still the reason why the Giants are underperforming. You have a way better team than what your record shows. You're 2-5, but you are a team that should at least be and playoff contention, at least competing for the 7th or 6th spot in the NFC playoffs. But the Giants won't be able to do that because the awful clock management of Brian Daboll, his poor understanding of situational football, and just putting too much on Jaxson Dart's shoulders. And when he went into that blue medical tent 2 weeks ago on Thursday Night Football against the Eagles, and he was snapping on the doctors, oh, get him out there now. I don't care if he has a concussion. We need that brother on the field. My job is on the line. That perfectly shows why the Giants are not going to go far, even if Jaxson Dart continues to develop at this rapid pace and he ends up being an elite quarterback 2-3 years from now. If you have Brian Daboll still as the head coach, you're not going to be good because he's holding back this organization. Good quarterbacks can overcome incompetent coaching. And that's what the Giants are asking Jaxson Dart to do with Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll is 100% responsible for the collapse that the Giants just had this past Sunday against the Broncos. Don't give me that BS about the DC, the kicker, when all of these factors were decisions that Brian Daboll made. He allowed that kicker to go out there and miss those 2 PATs despite missing a few kicks throughout the season prior. And he knew that the defensive coordinator wasn't that good. You had Wink Martindale, who was much better than what you currently have now, but Wink Martindale and Brian Daboll didn't get along. And Wink Martindale, on his way exiting the Giants organization, he cussed out Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll, he, throughout the years, hasn't gone along with a bunch of assistants on his coaching staff. He's butted heads with a few players. And when the Giants made a decision to move on from Daniel Jones, You felt really good about it. You felt that Daniel Jones was just a lost cause and he was a scrub. But you fast forward to now, the Colts have the best record in the NFL with the same quarterback that Brian Daboll scapegoated, that said that he's going to cost me my job. I need to move on from him. And yet you get what Brian Daboll perceives to be an upgrade from Daniel Jones and Jaxson Dart, and yet you still have the same results. So it's not the quarterback, exactly what Malik Neighbor said. It's the coaching staff. Brian Daboll should be fired right now. He should have been fired as soon as that game against the Broncos was over. He should have got fired at the airport. He shouldn't have been allowed to fly back with the team. There's no way that you can be up by 3 possessions and still lose the game and be able to keep your job with how bad the Giants have been under Brian Daboll since he went to the playoffs with Daniel Jones in his first season. This is a way better team than what the record shows. Joe Schoen did a fantastic job of putting together a team that's built to be competitive. Nobody expected for the Giants to be able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles the way that they did 2 weeks ago on Thursday night. They manhandled the Eagles as a 7.5-point underdog. So the team obviously has the talent to be a potential playoff team, but they just aren't getting the proper coaching to maximize the potential of this roster and the upside that Jaxson Dart has. And until the Giants fire Brian Daboll, no matter how good Jaxson Dart continues to play, they're going to continue to lose games in embarrassing fashion like they did against the Broncos because Brian Daboll just sucks as a head coach. You're up 10. 5 minutes to go, 3rd and 5. The Broncos have one last timeout to use. And instead of putting the ball in the hands of Cam Scalaboo, your workhorse, power horse back, you decide to put it in the hands of a young quarterback facing one of the toughest defenses in the league. And it's no surprise the Giants end up losing that game because Brian Daboll is putting all his eggs in one basket. He's basically saying, Jaxson Dart, carry this team. That's not what you ask a rookie quarterback in development to do. When you put everything on Jaxson Dart's shoulders, of course you're going to have some big mistakes that cost you the game because he's a young quarterback in development. He's going to have some bad lapses in judgment, like what he did in that 3rd and 5. But he never should have been put in that situation to begin with. You're an offensive-minded coach. Brian Daboll should have known better. And Brian Daboll should be fired right now. I'm still lost for words for how he still has a job with how the Broncos just dropped 33 points in the 4th quarter on him and hit the walk-off game win in the process. That was atrocious coaching that we saw out of the Giants this past weekend.